you can draw this in Procreate. I will guide you through all the steps to create this cute little shop. All you need is a canvas of 2,300 pixels by 3,000 pixels and a color palette that I have linked in the description. It's totally free. So if you're ready, let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is create a sketch to guide us when we create our wonky line art. And you can use any sketching brush you like. I'll be using the Bruny brush, which you can find under pencils. And I have the opacity set to 100% and the size is at 50. At first, we'll make a line like this going up. We are going to draw sort of like a milk carton shape. So a line here. This will be the front of our little shop. Line like this. So we'll create a simple perspective. So this is a little bit at an angle here as well. And then we have this side. And then we have the roof. That is a little bit like this. And I want it to look wonky, a bit silly, so we don't have to worry about this too much. And a line like this, and then we'll go down. So it's like a milk carton shape. Basic shape like this. And then we can just add elements to it. Like over here, about halfway, like this, slightly angled line. This will be a sunshade. So just create an angled shape like this. And then here we'll have a door. So just two lines with a little step. And a window over here. Just a rectangle. And on the front of that sunshade, you can make these semicircles like this. And then on the door, we can add a rectangle here. And we can also add these lines to our window here. And we can create a window over here. And maybe this one has these plants. So we'll make another rectangle like this. And then with a side here. And inside there will be some plants. You can just make these wobbly shapes. And then for the window, you can add an extra line like this. And then these lines. But of course you can vary things up for your building. You don't have to follow me exactly. Let's also make a window here. Again with these lines. And maybe a smaller one here. And then for the roof, first let's make these, well, they're not exactly semicircles, but they're these bumps for the roof tiles. And then we can make more like above, but slightly to the right. Here as well. So we're moving the bumps a little bit to the right as we move up. And then we can also make a few here at the top. And then we'll have this little ridge at the top. And maybe there's this antenna. You can just make a line going up, then a diagonal line like this, and then like 3 more diagonal lines. And we can also make an extra little edge here for the sunshade. And then these diagonal lines from these points where the two semicircles meet, and then a diagonal line up Like it needs to be parallel with the sides of the sunshade. Now we can have a little thingy here so that it's attached to the wall. And here in front we can have this menu thing. So first we'll make like a trapezium shape. And then a shape over here. And then we have these like legs. Something like this. And maybe over here there's a plant. So we have a pot and then plant inside. Maybe there's some plants here as well. And you can make as many as you like and vary the shapes. So that way you can easily mix things up, create your own version of this piece. Maybe this one is very long and it has leaves like this. And we could make like a drain. I'm not sure what it's called for the rain pipe on the side of the building going down here. Just small little details, maybe some pebbles here. And next to the building, I'd like to have a very big sunflower. So first, let's just make a big circle here and then another one inside. And then we'll have the big stem going down like this with some like grass here. And it'll have these leaves. Just something like this. And then we can use this circle as a guide to create some petals. But I don't want them to look too tidy. It's just a nice way of letting go of perfectionism, make it a bit wonky. It'll add to the character of this illustration. Maybe make this circle a bit bigger. I feel like it's a little bit off center, so we can just go to the move and transform tool, the arrow up here, and move our sketch a little bit to the right and then get out of here. And I also want a little rectangle over here on the door. And you can make your sketch as detailed or as messy as you like, of course, whatever you need in your inking phase. And for the line art phase, we are going to lower the opacity of our sketch. So go to the layer menu, then tap the N, slide to the left to around 30% and tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then for the brush, we will go to the inks over here and we will use the Swift brush. And for the color, just use the first one, just black for our lines. And this brush is going to give a really nice playful effect. Opacity is at 100%, size at 10. And now we are just going to follow our sketch. You can start wherever you like. I'm going to start with the sunshade. And with this brush, if you press harder, you'll get like a thicker line. So try to vary a little bit with that. And also you don't have to follow your sketch exactly, of course. You can make some new decisions. And also, don't be afraid to let your lines be a bit messy and wonky. And of course, when you zoom in, the brush, the strokes will look a little bit pixelated. So just don't zoom in too much. When you zoom out from your illustration, you won't see that anymore. Yeah, so don't worry. And then some lines like this. That is looking good. So just go for whatever element you like to ink next. We got this plant. I'll just make some shapes like this. And then for the window, I just love it when it doesn't have to be perfect, when we can make wonky lines. Letting go of that perfectionism and seeing that it actually turns out really nice when you do that, when it's a little bit messy, and it adds character. I hope you're having fun so far with this tutorial and that you like the way your shop looks. Now, if you want to have even more fun with Procreate, get your skills to the next level, then you will like my Patreon page. I have more than 250 Procreate drawing and painting tutorials over there. So come check that out. I will leave a link for you down in the description in case you're interested, and I would love to see you there. But now let's continue. Yeah, so let's just continue. Let's go to the roof tiles. I want the underside to be dark. There's that shadow. Just these semicircles. And then those semicircles above. And we can also make some lines like this. We don't have to add those everywhere. This one. So they move to the right a little bit. And then over here at the top. Maybe that one is going a little bit too far. But like I said, it's okay if it looks a little bit off or a little bit wonky. Remember, it adds to the character. Then we have the top. Sometimes it's handy to rotate your canvas a bit. And maybe an extra little line like this. Then we have this side. Just two little parallel lines. And that antenna. Then for the side of the building, I try not to use the quick shape or the quick line because I want it to be a bit wonky. Then this leaf, it's like covering a part of the building, so I'll make that first and then continue this line. Then for the door, and here we have that plant that is covering it a little bit, so let me create that with its pot. And then this little step. Let's take it slow, element by element. This little part of the door. And when you do this for the rest of the sketch as well, it will end up looking something like this. So now it's time to add some color. And I want to keep this very simple. So first, let's turn off our sketch layer. And then let's make a layer underneath our ink. So let's tap the plus. And then for the brush, I'd like to go to the gouache brushes. Oh, where are they? They are mixing. And I'd like to use the Gatsby brush. And then for our color, let's start with this one. Second color in, well, the only row that we have. The opacity should be at 100%. And with the size, you can play around. I'll set it at 10%. And then, for instance, color in the window here. And also for this coloring, I want it to be a little bit messy. I don't want it to be like covering everything. It's okay if there is still some white space or if it's going outside of the edges a little bit. It is going to add to the charm. Let's also use this for the flower. And we can put all the colors on one layer in this case. Then for the side, you could also make your brush a little bit bigger for this area. Just play around with that. A little bit around this plant. It's nice to keep some white parts. So a little bit in between, also here. Then let's move to, let's move to this color, third color. Let's use that for the roof. And here as well, leave some white space every once in a while. Don't make it too tidy. It'll add to the look we're going for. Yeah, something like this. And then we have the sunshade. Something like this. Maybe we can also use it for this sign. And then let's move to this color, fourth color. I'd like to use that for these windows. Maybe for the drain. You can use it for this pot. And yeah, let's also use it on the ground. Maybe some shadow for this board. And also here. A little bit of shadow. And we can also do that underneath here. A little bit underneath that sunshade. And we can also create some of these shapes as if these are bricks. The shadow underneath here. And also here underneath the tiles. Then let's move to this color, fifth color. We'll just go down the row. Let's use that for this pot thing. And also for these. So we have a very harmonious color palette here. When you go to, when you just look at these colors, but also when you go to harmony, let's go to analogous. You'll see that all these colors are pretty close to each other. Even this green is pretty close to the rest. It's all in this area, and that makes this color palette very calm, a bit soothing. It's nice and warm. And now let's switch to that green, 6th color, and we'll just use that for the plants. Makes sense, I think. And again, keep it a little bit messy, keep some white parts. Everything doesn't have to be filled out perfectly. And then we have this stem. And those leaves. And then that's actually it. I hope you have enjoyed creating your own little shop. Let me know in the comments if you did. And I will see you next time for the next tutorial.